Good evening. Welcome all to the Muscle Health Foundation Charity's 16th episode in Series 2 of our In Conversation with broadcasts hosted by myself, Michael McGrath. These chats are informal, they're conversational in style with interesting guests and personalities designed to hopefully entertain, inform, and maybe even lift spirits. But also tonight, ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. I've absolutely no doubt that our guest will do all of the above, but also, I hope, empower you. So, as always, if you're joining us for the very first time, a very warm welcome to you all. And as many of you will now know, these broadcasts are designed first and foremost to speak to our community, children and young people across the UK between the ages of 8 and 28 years who have the muscle wasting condition muscular dystrophy. And it's interesting because some 95% of the charity's beneficiary group are those with Duchenne muscular dystrophy or DMD. So, of course, they're an opportunity for families to come together. So to all the mums and dads and uncles and aunties, brothers and sisters, PAs and carers, our charity friends, partners and supporters, welcome to you all. And thanks so much for your continued support. Do you know, we've worked out that by the time that we get to the end of February 2022, that's a further 7 shows. We estimate, and it is an estimate, okay, that the collective reach of these broadcasts won't be far off 250,000. So we want these conversations, of course, to remain relevant and, of course, of interest, not only to our tribe of muscle warriors across the country in encouraging that really important sense of community and that important sense of belonging, but also to new audiences that are hearing perhaps a little bit more about the work and impact of the Muscle Health Foundation charity. So before we welcome tonight's guest, as always, a few quick housekeeping points. Firstly, a little safeguarding note. We have, as always, several eyes over tonight's broadcast, streaming live on the charity's Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn channels. So if any inappropriate comments are observed, action will be taken. And secondly, all In Conversation with broadcasts are recorded, meaning that you can watch any of them at your leisure, or you might wish to binge them all over a couple of days. Now there's a thought. Anyway, please subscribe, comment, and share. And as always, for all these shows, do post your questions and or observations in the comments field on whichever channels you're watching on. So onwards, I am very, very delighted to introduce tonight's guest. Please give it up for Jon Rey-Hastie, the CEO of Pathfinders Neuromuscular Alliance, formerly, I believe, DMD Pathfinders. A very, very warm welcome, Jon. Good evening. How's it going?
Good evening. Thanks, Michael. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, and I hope I can do your introduction justice. And looking forward to having a good conversation tonight.
It's really great to have you with us this evening, and we've been so looking forward to having this chat with you. Our paths, as we talked a little bit earlier, have crossed, I think, over the years, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've met at several events, and I think had several meetings and closely follow each other's work, I think.
Yeah. So firstly, Jon, whereabouts are you in the UK this evening?
So I live in Reading.
And I've got to ask, how was life for you during lockdown, and how cautious are you still being?
Yeah, I mean it's been an interesting time, isn't it? Yeah, interesting as in where you live in interesting times, which isn't always something you want to be doing. But yeah, no, it's been kind of like a steep learning curve at the beginning in terms of what steps we could take to try and keep safe. And yeah, it was pretty terrifying, to be honest.
Yeah.
At certain points, particularly when you're worried about whether you would even be able to get treatment should you get ill. So yeah, it's been a scary ride, but I think I eventually adapted to it. I think, a lot of the work that I did it was all from home anyway, so
Yeah.
it was quite easy to make that adaptation. But it was, yeah, certainly just as a household, my husband was, working from home all the time, where he wasn't before, so it did take a while for us to adapt, and we couldn't go on the holidays that we wanted to do, but we made up for that with interesting staycations and such. But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that we're kind of coming towards the end of it, and it's taken me a while, but I am feeling more confident going out and about, and I'm not being as definitely not as cautious as I was. But I am. It's taken a while to build that confidence back up, though, to kind of get out and about and to be mixing. I'm still kind of a bit nervous and uncomfortable if I'm inside in a busy space, but I'm just kind of I don't know. I don't want to hold myself back too much, so I kind of feel like I just need to accept the risk and kind of move on with my life. So it's not easy to adapt, and I'm still feeling a bit nervous about it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's how we individually process risk,
Mm,
isn't it? And I think that's challenging for many, not least those that have vulnerabilities. But let's turn our focus to the world of Duchenne muscular dystrophy, or DMD, which is the abbreviation. And for those that don't know how it's impacted, your life. But John, listen, I'm also very, very keen to convey a positive message of hope and realization and opportunity, especially to those young people living with DMD who maybe are tuning in this evening and perhaps are still coming to terms, with the fact that they're different, right?
mm,
And I know that you've occasionally referenced that difference as a superpower, in knowing that with the right support, lives can be lived fully. So, yeah, how has it impacted your life? For those that don't know, what is Duchenne muscular dystrophy? That's a good place to start, right?
Sure, yeah. So Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a muscle weakening condition that starts in early childhood, and yeah, for me that meant I started using a wheelchair when I was about 10 years old, and just kind of gradual muscle deterioration everywhere really over time, and started using a ventilator in my early 20s, just overnight to begin with, and then just kind of gradually the muscles around my lungs that, that help with the breathing have gradually deteriorated. So I now use a ventilator all day. My movement is very restricted now, just to being able to move my hands a little bit. But yeah, it's been a kind of very gradual deterioration, and kind of in a way that kind of has given me the time to adapt. It's not like I
Mm.
suddenly had to deal with being able to do everything for myself to suddenly being able to do nothing. It's been a gradual change and a gradual deterioration, and yeah, I've just kind of adapted to it really, and I've had the support that I've needed uh, to manage to live my life well. So, I have a team of care assistants who provide round the clock care, and that enables me to work, to socialize, to travel, and really to have a good quality of life. So, it is obviously very different. Um, but yeah, as I've said before, I do think sometimes that difference can be a superpower,
Mm.
because it gives you certain things that it gives you things that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So if I think about things like my job that I have, a lot of the friends that I've met, my partner, I don't think I would have any of that if I didn't have Duchenne, because my
Mm.
life would have taken a different path. So all those things that I'm really thankful for, but I think also it's given me skills.
Mm.
I feel like it's given me understanding and empathy of other people that are different in other ways. And also, other people with DMD and the different struggles that people have had. I think, it's given me remarkable kind of resilience. So, the fact that I've had to adapt every time my kind of condition has changed, that's made me very adaptable, and it means I can problem solve quite well because I have to do that daily. Finding that
Of
that
course.
that bit of equipment that you need to enable
Mm.
you to do what you want is kind of that's really important, and just having that attitude to encountering a barrier and thinking, okay, what's the solution, rather than kind of getting stuck. So yeah, I think it's really helped, and kind of managing my care and that sort of thing. It's given me a lot of very good organization skills. So yeah, I think it's given me a lot of skills that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Let's just talk very briefly about the word resilience. In your world, what does that actually mean?
I suppose it means not getting bogged down when you encounter a problem, and
Mm.
being being able to focus on finding a way forward. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean never having any bad points or like low mood or anything. Everybody has that. That's quite normal, and certainly there'll be times when things get me down. But it's kind of like being able to move on from that and kind of allow, accept those feelings and process them. But then,
Mm.
after a short while, it's kind of like, okay, now what? How do I move forward? And yeah, so I think that's what it means to me.
It's interesting because there was quite a lot of conversations in the national media last year about people with disabilities being better equipped to adapt to this wretched pandemic, right? And I followed some of those stories with interest because in this conversation that we've been going for nearly 12 minutes, I think you used the word adapt several times already. And I can relate to that, and I know that many others can relate to that ability of being better equipped because what, we see the world perhaps in a slightly different way. um, I want to pick up on a word that I know resonates with many, which is transition, and specifically the desire to want to live independently, right? So where would you signpost, John, those wanting to perhaps learn more or wanting some guidance and advice in wanting to speak perhaps to others who, like you, are living, a full and independent life? So a few nuggets of wisdom maybe on living independently.
Well, I would signpost to Pathfinders. I mean, I would say that because I'm the CEO of Pathfinders, but I do hope that we have kind of fostered a community that is willing to share kind of tips and advice on how we've kind of managed the different aspects of living independently. And I think the information that we've got on our website, which we're going to be developing a lot over the next year, and also like the events that we run. We've recorded them all, so that we got a good kind of back history, so to speak, of the different events on YouTube. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really useful information there. But yeah, so you can't really get better information than from people with uh, neuromuscular conditions themselves in
Yeah,
terms of how they've managed. They know that's where all the best kind of information that I've received has come from.
yeah.
So yeah,
With
definitely.
all with all your events, you could wrap them up and box set them, right?
Yes, the thing
So
that's something we're going to be working on. Yeah.
So remember, if you're tuning in this evening, if you'd like to put a question directly to John, you know what you need to do. So John, before you tell us a little more about Pathfinders Neuromuscular Alliance, as I said earlier, formerly known as DMD Pathfinders, right? I've got to share this incredibly striking photograph that you shared with us and simply ask you, John, what's the story here?
Yeah, what was going through my mind?
What's going on here?
So actually, we did this as part of our staycation. So yeah, it's interesting you mentioned adapting in the face of the pandemic. So that was something that I really put a lot of work into, was thinking about what can we do instead of going away on our usual kind of summer holiday? So I was thinking about different ways that we can kind of explore different cultures without actually leaving our home. So there's a whole load of different things that we did. We got a virtual reality headset and we loaded it up with some of the 360 videos that you could get on YouTube that basically, even in my wheelchair, to make sure I had enough space because it's quite easy to knock things over, but you could just turn around in your wheelchair with a headset on and kind of, see our entire 360 kind of cityscape. And there's some amazing videos that allow you to kind of, imagine that you were traveling. And we also got a load of food from that we ordered in from the specialist kind of retailers, which was from different regions, and we like cook up recipes ourselves from the different areas. And anyway, this photo was from our Japanese day, and yeah, this is a character from a Japanese theatre kind of show that yeah, I really was. I just loved the kind of impressive lines of the face paint. So we just got face paints, and my PA spent quite a long time doing that.
I bet.
I think it did a good job.
I think there's real artistry right there.
Definitely, yeah,
When I
yeah.
first saw that picture, it was slightly haunting, and but nevertheless, it tells a story, and a wonderful story. So
Yes, I like to put it on my profile picture when I'm in meetings with particularly with like businesses and such, just to hint at a more fun side of things.
but I reckon you're doing it because you're being entertained by watching people's reactions.
Yes.
So, John, tell us about Pathfinders Neuromuscular Alliance. What's its purpose?
Yeah, so Pathfinders was established, as you said, it was DMD Pathfinders before. We did some work with another charity, Action Duchenne, way back in 2012 or so, and there was a group of us adults with Duchenne, and just the work that we did together made us realize kind of what value we have as older adults, kind of sharing experiences and information with younger people, and but also not only that, but what we could offer to each other. So just some of the conversations that we had as adults made us realize that it's really helpful to share different share information between us and advice and tips. And so we thought, why don't we make this something official? And I think we're also kind of we're also aware that a lot of the other charities were kind of more focused on parents and kind of led by parents. So we realized there wasn't really a voice of adults themselves kind of driving forward what they wanted. So that's kind of why we decided to set up Pathfinders. And it's been a long journey, but essentially what we really want to do, we just want to share information and advice to make it easier for people with muscle weakening conditions to live a good quality of life and not have to kind of fight the system and research every time you want to do something new. Just somewhere that we can share experiences really. But I think we've also realised that there's a lot of kind of barriers to young people really realising their dreams. So we're focused very much also on how we can support people from an early stage into figuring out how to live as a disabled adult. Because I think where I am right now at 40 years old, I'm very happy with my life, but I think it's taken me a long time to get there. And it wasn't until I was 30 that I kind of moved out really and it started living independently. Then I think I got my first job when I was about 29. So a lot of these things that if I'd have had the right kind of advice, information, and support and encouragement, I probably would have done a lot of these things earlier.
Yeah.
So I kind of, that's what I want for the next generation, that they can kind of build on what we've learned and kind of go even further and start even earlier in terms of like what they're achieving.
We've spoken about this before, haven't we, in terms of empowerment and life skills, not just in terms of uplifting confidence, improving self-esteem, but learning about everything from work preparedness to, I suppose, writing CVs, to relationships, to nutrition, a whole variety of different subjects. And are you gearing the charity around, I mean, broadly those with muscular dystrophy and allied neuromuscular conditions, or are you quite specific to the DMD community?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, we expanded. So we realised that actually a lot of the things that we're doing for the DMD community were also relevant to people with other conditions. So over the last year we've been broadening our scope. So it's now all forms of muscular dystrophy and other muscle weakening conditions as well. So anything that's primarily muscle weakening is what's happening. Then that's the conditions that we're supporting. So we broadened our trustee board to bring on people with different conditions. We really want to hear from people with all kinds of different muscle weakening conditions. Really,
it's interesting because tomorrow is Global Limb Girdle Muscular Dystrophy Day. And it makes me think, because 10 or 15 years ago, there were maybe 5 or perhaps 10 variants of LGMD. I have LGMD2A, right? Carpinopathy. And now there are in excess of 25 variants of LGMD. So are you focusing on just the broad LGMD community as one of?
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
LGMD is just one of the conditions that we would support. I think
Sure.
the one thing I would say is, because we started off as Duchenne, and it's kind of only in the last year that we've expanded. I think maybe that message maybe hasn't got out as far as we want it to yet. So we absolutely want to hear from people with all kinds of different conditions. We've got, at the moment, we're looking for more people to sit on our trustee boards, and particularly to represent specific conditions, bring in that expertise. So yeah, we're really keen to get more people involved.
You kind of answered the next question without even knowing what the question is, John, which is for those that have tuned in this evening, or to those who'll be watching the show perhaps at a later date because it's being recorded, right? What support does the charity need right now to help it push on with its work?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked. So I mean, we've got a lot of new projects that we're starting. It's really quite an exciting time with Pathfinders. We've got a project to develop training for personal assistants and carers, people with muscle weakening conditions. We've got a content creators academy that we're starting next month, which is going to be kind of doing coaching and training for young people to become freelance content creators. So whether that's videos or blogs or articles on their website or podcasts, we really want people to kind of use their skills and be able to market them in as like freelance employment opportunities. So we're going to be giving some kind of training and coaching with a view to then employing people as freelancers to develop our website resources. And we've also got a kind of like development camp that we're going to be launching soon. Like it's going to be next year probably.
Okay, sounds exciting.
But we're going to start some work on that. So there's tons of opportunities for people to get involved, either in a work capacity or volunteering, or they could be a trustee. I think also we do need help with fundraising, because I think we have these project grants, but we need some kind of like basic support just to keep the charity going in between doing all these exciting projects. So yeah, lots of opportunities to people to get involved in however they want, really.
Excellent. And in order for people to get involved, they can go to the website and find out more information there.
Yeah, that's right. Go to our website. We're also prominent on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, so you can find us there. And just get in touch.
Very good. Right, we're going to pick the pace up a little bit because we've got a lot to get through this evening, John. I'm going to dive into the chat room. I'm going to say a big hello and a muscle warrior salute to Shay, who's watching on YouTube. Well done, Shay. And thanks for tuning in. And Zakia sends a message. Hey, I'm new. I don't have Duchenne muscular dystrophy, but I do have congenital muscular dystrophy, CMD. Hope you're both well. We're both well. Thank you so much for asking. And Sharon's also made a comment about the website for your charity, John, website is great. It's very easy to navigate. Well, that's important, isn't it?
That's good to hear because I designed that myself.
There you go. Fantastic. So, John, before we chat some more, you'll hopefully be familiar with our quick fire rounds. Okay, so these are really designed to allow our audience and those that have tuned in to get to know you and our guests, that little bit more. So, are you ready?
God, I don't know. I'm under pressure now, but
You
yeah,
are.
go for it.
Okay, here we go. Disabled person with a disability, or differently abled?
Disabled person, definitely, because it fits with the social model.
Most used emoji on your smartphone?
Probably the one sticking your tongue out when you're being cheeky.
Excellent. Very good. Well, we'll be looking out for a few of those coming into the chat room. Okay, so full equality for disabled people, 10 years, 25 years, 50 years?
50 years. I think I think we've gone backwards a little bit. So it's going to take a while to sort that out.
True or false? At its heart, John, ableism, this new term, right, is rooted in the assumption that disabled people require fixing, and it defines people by their disability. True or false?
Yes, that sounds about right.
What tune puts John in a fantastic mood?
It's got to be something like catchy that you can sing along to. Maybe some Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi, very good.
Yeah.
One item that you take to a desert island?
I'd probably say my computer, but then do we have Wi-Fi? And is there really power supply to make that worth it? So I don't know.
Electric, plastic, or bamboo toothbrush?
Electric.
If you were the PM for 24 hours, what single change would you make other than sort the fuel supply crisis out?
God, can I say reverse Brexit, or is that too controversial?
No, as controversial as you'd like to be.
Yes, probably reverse Brexit, because I don't think it's showing to be a great success.
John, if you could speak a language fluently, what would it be?
Well, I'm learning Spanish at the moment, so it'd be good to kind of like skip a few stages and just skip straight to fluency.
Muy bien, muy bien. And finally, in this little section, first career that you dreamed of having as a kid?
I think being an author. I always enjoyed reading, even from like quite an early age, and I wanted to write my own novel, I think.
So a little bit of a gear change. I'm going to share a series of photographs that we've put together, and thank you so much for sharing. The hundreds of photographs that you shared with me, which really told me a story of your life. And it's been a difficult job actually to select just the few that I've selected, but I'd like you to perhaps just invite you to tell us a little about the photographs in no particular order that we're going to pop up. So the first one, here's the first one. Just chat us through what's going on here.
So, yeah, that was the bottom right one was London Paralympics. That was quite exciting. I think top right was I looked quite young there, so I think it was our first trip to Disney World, Florida. But we had several trips when I was younger. I was quite spoiled in that regard. And then yeah, I think the bottom left one's probably a holiday in I don't know, maybe France or somewhere I went with my parents. And yeah, I don't know what's going on in the top left. It doesn't look very safe, but I'm sure I enjoyed it at the time. That's my dad in the picture.
Is that your dad? Is he swinging you?
I believe so.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next image.
Ah, yes, that's Jessie Cat in the top left. First cat I've ever had. I got her when she was 7. She was a rescue, but yeah, she loves to sit on top. And that's me and my husband in the top right in Brighton, I think. And that's me at Pride, as you might be able to tell from the rainbow everything.
Yes.
That I'm adorned with. And the bottom right one, I did a fundraising challenge where I walked, well, I drove my wheelchair a mile a day, like for 28 days in February, and I chose that because I usually hibernate in February because it's so cold. And yeah, so it was quite a challenge for me actually to do a mile a day for 28 days of February because it was blooming cold, and I had to wrap up very warm, and I wore some silly hats each day as well.
It's a very sophisticated look.
Yeah.
Is your husband tuning in this evening?
But he's around. Yes.
He's around. Okay.
Trying to avoid getting in the shot, I think.
What's his name?
Thomas. You might see him. You might see him around.
It would be nice to say good evening to Thomas at some point. So moving on to the next slide.
So yes, that's more of us too. So yeah, on the top right, that's we. Oh yeah, that was for my brother's 40th birthday. So yeah, we had a little photo booth that we went to. Bottom right one is us in Stockholm, I think. Yeah, it says Stockholm City. You might be able to see that. But yeah, that was the opening of a new subway station when we were there. And Thomas is very keen on kind of like mapping out accessibility on different subway stations around the world. So he always gets quite excited when a new accessible station opens up. And yeah, the other two were, us just doing what we do, what we like to do, going out for food and drinks. And
well, there's the thing. There's the thing, John. There's a common denominator beginning to emerge through the evidence of all of these pictures, which is cocktails. But we'll come on to that. We'll come on to that a little bit later.
Cocktails and shots, I think as well.
Yeah, shots and cocktails.
Yeah.
And there's another image that we're going to pop up for you with more shots and more cocktails.
Yep.
What's going on here?
That sounds about right. In the top left, that's when we went to the Bacardi Museum, and that was in Sitges in Spain. And yeah, they taught us how to make mojitos properly. That was good. And then we got a wedding picture there on the bottom left. That's from our wedding. And then yeah, in the middle, I think that was from Pride. And on the right, I think that was the same day that we went to the Bacardi Museum, and just enjoying our time in Sitges and drinking nice cocktails.
I'm getting a real picture here, John. I'm going to jump into the chat room as we move the conversation along, and somebody's asking, what is your favorite cocktail? I think I know the answer to that, but go for it.
It's pina colada. I had a really, really good pina colada at our wedding venue, so that kind of sticks in my mind.
Very good. And good evening to Philippa, from DFSD, Duchenne Family Support Group. Lovely to have you tuning in with us this evening, Philippa. So, John, when we spoke a few days ago, I asked if you were happy to share your age, which you've already done. And I also asked if you happen to know the age of the oldest person with DMD living here in the UK. Do you know that?
So I don't know for sure, but
Okay.
you know, Mark Chapman, who co-founded DMD Pathfinders, I think he's 51 now. So yeah, he's been someone I've kind of always looked up to. So yeah, you know,
Excellent.
the life expectancy is increasing
Yeah.
a lot from when I was younger. So it's really quite positive. But I do know someone in the Netherlands who's 56. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm hoping for, you know, to be around for quite a bit
Good.
longer, really.
I'm pleased to hear it. I'm really pleased to hear it. It's interesting because the conversation, as you quite rightly point out, has moved on. And as a result of the advancement of better ventilator technology, better drug rehabilitation, better care, you know, there's so many pluses. And when we look back 15, perhaps 20 years ago and where we are today, things have moved on a lot, haven't they?
Yes. No, absolutely. I think when I was younger, when I was diagnosed, my parents were told that I'd be lucky to live past 16, and
Yeah.
you know now I'm 40, and I think you know I worried about this a lot when I was
Yeah.
kind of growing up. It's definitely shaped me and kind of determined what I've done and kind of how I've thought about my future and stuff. And I'm kind of you know I wish someone had told me that the possibility was that I could you know live to the
Sure.
age that I am now and longer, because yeah, that would have been really quite empowering. I mean, no one knows for sure. It is a difficult subject. You think kind of you don't want to get bogged down in it too much, but no one really knows kind of like how long any of us have. So, and I
Well,
think
that's true.
you know the situation has changed with Duchenne, so that you can actually you know potentially live till um, a reasonable age. So I think it's changed things a lot, and I think it's much easier to now at least hope for you know having a very long and fruitful life.
Well, I think you've got a lot of living to be done. So let's talk briefly about campaigning. Okay. And by that, I mean campaigning for change, campaigning for equality, campaigning for better services, campaigning for accessibility. Why does, briefly, because we've got a lot to get through this evening, John, why does campaigning matter so much to you?
I think it's just seeing the injustice in the world and kind of you know seeing how much could be different, and also I feel like a lot of the injustice is it's almost like accidental. It's almost like no one's really thought about this, so that's why that injustice exists, and it's you know it feels like you know you can change mindsets and change what happens just by raising awareness. It's just because people are so ignorant about something, they don't realize that you know something's a problem. So I just kind of I feel like there's so much potential to change the world, and you know it's kind of our duty to try and do that really.
What advice would you give young people, perhaps who may have an interest in, I don't know, supporting a campaign, but perhaps are not sure how to engage or where to go?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's to find out who's working on that already and how you can kind of contribute and make a difference, because there's so
Yeah.
many different campaigns and different issues and that kind of you know we don't need to kind of compete with each other. We need to all work together and cooperate. I think to have the biggest impact. So yeah, definitely find out who's working on that already. But I think you know get in contact with your MPs and realize the power and that you have in terms of you know telling a story and sharing your experience is so powerful. And I think you know you've got to recognize that and kind of use that as much as possible.
John, in general, you know, people with disabilities report poorer general health, right? So do you agree with that statement?
So what was the statement? People with
People with
disabilities?
disabilities report poorer general health.
Yes, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they also report higher levels of psychological distress than people without disabilities. So with that in mind, what tips would you give around, for example, relationships? What are the barriers and how can they be overcome?
Yeah, with relationships particularly, it's such a hard one. Because I'm happily married now, but I spent 13 years like single and wanting a relationship and kind of not being able to get anywhere. And gosh, that was a struggle at times. And I guess I guess the advice would be not to give up. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but that is just what you have to do. And I think kind of I guess what I found the easiest was like not getting bogged down in the fact that I really wanted a relationship, not letting that dominate how I behaved and how I kind of like acted. And going on online dating sites, you don't really want to come across as like really desperate because it's not that attractive. So I guess for me, what I focused on was living my life how I wanted to, and kind of building up like stuff like work and kind of friendships and getting out and being sociable and kind of not focusing too much on the relationship bit, but still kind of focusing on it enough that I'd still be on the online dating sites, but kind of make sure that I'm happy with my own life and kind of when I do meet someone, I've got lots of things going on that's kind of I don't know that mean something to me. So I'm not just like kind of desperate really.
Let's jump into the chat room for a second. Philippa's got a message here. Sarah Rose, one of John's trustees, is with Philippa this evening and working. I think Philippa works as one of her PAs. So good evening to Sarah Rose. Great to have you with us. And we've got a message from David. David, good evening. It's great that you could be back with us. And thank you so much for your kind message and listening to John's story has, in your words, opened up new horizons of understanding for you, which is wonderful. So thank you for that. And David's also popped in another message saying a lot of living to be done and convincing others of how this matters. I mean, that's a narrative that we're all having to address in different ways as we live our day-to-day lives. Now, John, I've got to ask you as we move the conversation along, John, where's your happy place?
Probably playing games on the computer. Just because that's what I've done since I was, very young, really, and that's just kind of where I've gone to enjoy myself and to feel happy, really.
Excellent. And so moving on to movies, all right. So come on then, let's talk briefly about the movies that you love, your favorite movies.
Well, it's got to be Lord of the Rings because I do like to binge the box sets every so often.
Good.
Yeah, I just think it's quite an epic film. I read the books when I was younger, and yeah, so it's always something that I enjoy. I think also One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is
fantastic.
Probably my favorite, really.
Jack Nicholson at his best.
Yes, yeah, just the kind of energy and charisma of him is amazing in that film, I think.
A good psychological comedy drama, I think it's described as.
Yeah,
so whilst
it's kind of a tragedy, really.
Yes.
So that's kind of what appeals to me is that like almost the tragedy of it is just so powerful.
So let's stick to the subject of movies because I know that some years ago you made a documentary about a journey around the UK and Europe to meet 6 other adults with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, all living remarkable lives. And that film was called A Life Worth Living, Pushing the Limits of Duchenne. I believe it's on YouTube, right, John?
Yes. Yeah, that's right, the whole version.
And I found it. And there's a descriptive, which I'm just going to read out verbatim because it gives a quick expose, if you like, of the film. We encourage anyone who hasn't seen it, A Life Worth Living, Pushing the Limits of Duchenne, to go and see it. And it's described in the following way. It's a fun, inspiring, poignant, and surprising rock and roll journey that takes us into the lives of guys who, against all the odds, show us how valuable life is. The film bears witness to the fact that life is to be treasured and lived to the full. But actually, Jon, what we'd like to talk to you tonight is actually focusing on another film that you were featured in. So I'd like to show a short 2-minute trailer of a documentary film by Nick Tausig and Riccardo Savini called A Space in Time. And it's shown for the first time in UK cinemas in, I believe, May this year, 2021. And as the descriptive indicates, it becomes an unlikely celebration of the disabled life, the life cut short by rare disease. So let's play the trailer, and then I'm going to ask you, Jon, about your takeaway messages and indeed any other observations that you'd like to make about the film. So let's watch the trailer.
Happy birthday to you. Can I tickle, 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 tickle? The word Duchenne, what does it mean to me? It's my whole world, really.
It's slowly making the muscles weaker and weaker.
It's disease of the muscles in the body.
It can be hard seeing all the things that you can't do when your friends are doing that.
Their lives are going to be something different because of their condition. Listen to me, okay? It's all right. People are born in different ways. You were born with weak muscles, okay? And you mustn't blame yourself.
But I didn't want to. Daddy wanted to play football with my things.
Oh, buddy, I'm sorry.
Be thunder without any lightning.
When someone tells you you might lose your child, it's a hell of a weight to bear.
And it comes only at the deepest, darkest hour, but it comes.
There's a greater urgency to really be with your children if you know they're not going to be with you for so long. Sometimes there are no answers and solutions to things, but that's okay. It's what makes life fairly extraordinary.
I've got such a rich life, of which my limitations and my disability is only one part. You don't need to shield your boys from every hardship and every difficulty. There's such value in being different that I think you should embrace it. Being different can be a superpower.
We can go much further than we thought we could.
Such a powerful film, and I watched it, and I think the phrase that was mentioned there's such value in being different. Jon, what's your takeaway from that particular film?
So I think the film is kind of complex because it's kind of juxtaposing the some of the tough times and conversations that a family will go through when they have children diagnosed with DMD against the kind of really powerful messages about disability and kind of about, as you say, the value of being different. So I think the film is really honest about that, and I think I'm really grateful to have been able to be part of that film because I feel it kind of helped to get that message across that as a disabled person you can have a good quality of life, and I think that's the main thing for me from that film.
So a bit of a gear change, Jon. It's that time again for our second quick fire round. Are you ready?
I only just made it through the first one.
You did very well. So here we go. If someone were to play you, Jon, in a movie, who would you want it to be?
Oh wow, that is a tricky one. can't really think off the top of my head. Someone, yeah,
You
I
can
don't know,
come. You can come
maybe,
back to that one. You can come back
yeah,
to that one. If somebody pops into your mind at any point for the next 10 or
yes.
15, 10 or 15 minutes or so, just spit it out. So, John, your one hidden talent that we don't know about, other than enjoying pina coladas every day.
I think we got quite talented at baking, but yeah, I think a lot of people know about that because I put all the stuff that we do on Facebook. But yeah, me and my husband have spent quite a long time kind of perfecting our skills in baking. So yeah, okay, most of mine is instructing him what to do, but I still think that's quite a powerful skill.
Are we going to see you and Thomas on Bake Off one of these days, perhaps?
Oh, I don't think we can work that quickly.
The last text message you sent.
Oh, it's not very exciting. It's probably to one of my PAs asking if they could cover a shift because that's what I have to do quite a lot actually is organising my care team and making sure I got the people there when I need them. So that's what I often use the text messages for.
Tonight's dinner, who cooked it?
It was a ready meal from cook because I was a bit lazy and we didn't have time to do proper cooking.
One thing that Jon Rey-Hastie does to relax.
Playing computer games mostly. And watching TV and films.
Grilled chicken, roast chicken, or chicken chasseur?
Wow. I think actually roast chicken. I do love a good roast chicken.
Pina colada cocktails, blended or shaken with ice?
Probably blended so they're nice and smooth.
And John, the best bit of advice that you'd give your younger self?
Cool. Probably not to plan my life as if my life expectancy was limited, and yeah, kind of have the confidence and kind of courage to actually dream big about what I wanted to achieve.
So remember, the one answer that we need to hear at some point between now and the end of the show is if someone were to play you in a movie, right? Who would you want it to be? Now, I believe that one of your aspirations is that you have a desire to write a book. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think I've built up a lot of experience that I think I would like to share, and yeah, I think there's a lot to do with that if I had the time.
It's always about the time, isn't it?
It is.
So, John, forgive me, I just have a little cough there. If you could invite two celebrities to your home for a pot of tea to help lift spirits, who would they be and why, John?
Cool. I think Baroness Joan Campbell would be one to discuss kind of disability rights and her extensive work on that. And I think Miriam Margolyes as well, just for laughs.
And speaking of having laughs and having spirits lifted, who makes John laugh out loud?
I think for me, like, what makes me laugh is like challenging kind of expectations in some way and kind of doing something you just don't expect. I really like Sarah Millican as a comedian. I think she's just really honest, and I just love her kind of self-deprecating humor. I think it's really really good and really clever. I like Noel Fielding as well. Kind of his weird and wacky side, but also he's genuinely just like comes across as a really nice guy. I think, and but yeah, it does seem to enjoy going against expectations.
Good stuff. And tell us about one or two goals or aspirations that you want to achieve in your life.
So I think, Pathfinders is one of my goals. I gotta making that sustainable beyond me is, I want to be able to step back and I want it to carry on going. I'm not ready to step back just yet. I'll clarify, but in the future, I want to be able to step down and be confident that the community will take it forward and that it will have a lasting legacy. That's quite important. I want to be involved in a successful political campaign as well. So
Okay.
I've done some campaigning work, but I want to be part of something where something really changes, and we kind of feel like that was real worthwhile use of my time.
Is there a campaign that you have a particular interest in?
I mean, there's a few that we're working on. We're kind of doing some work around accessible housing, but I think maybe one that's really important is level boarding on trains, and just getting more commitment to actually making level boarding happen on more trains, so you can drive in your wheelchair, just drive on and off a train whenever you want. Wouldn't that be lovely?
That would be very good. I'm going to jump into the chat room for a second. There's a message here from Philippa. Thank you again, Philippa. So important for people like John to share their journey. It gives hope to the families that are struggling with the diagnosis and the journey ahead. And Claire, good evening, Claire. And she said, thank you both, as you've certainly inspired my two young men to achieve. That's really, really lovely to hear. So final question to close off this evening's show, John. You've been a terrific guest. If there was one thing that we can all do to make the world a slightly better place, what would that be, John?
Again, it's really hard to answer a question like that without sounding cheesy, but yeah, I guess kind of just making the effort to understand each other and kind of understand where we're coming from, and I guess it's about keeping an open mind and kind of being prepared to listen, and actually being willing to admit that you're wrong and that you can change your mind about something without it reflecting badly on you. I think if we could all do that a bit more, I think that would make things a lot easier.
It's a question that we always ask on these broadcasts, and a common thread with a lot of the answers. People do talk about being prepared to listen a little bit more attentively, the need for perhaps a little bit more compassion and kindness in our world today, right? 18 months on through this pandemic. Anyway, huge thanks to Jon Rey-Hastie for being our guest tonight. A muscle warrior salute from me to you, John. And for those that don't know, this is a visible symbol of hope, courage, strength, joy, and unity for all those with muscular dystrophy. And as always, if you've enjoyed tonight's episode, you know what you need to do. Please, 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 can we invite you to make a donation so the Muscle Help Foundation charity can continue with its virtual Muscle Dream program interventions. And John, as is the custom, if you know someone who would make an outstanding in conversation with guest for a future episode, have a think and please do let us know. So Here we go. Here's the drum roll. Breaking news. We are going to be back on Wednesday, the 20th of October for episode 17. There's the diary date alert. And we go live at 7:30 p.m. And in this episode, I'm going to be joined by Chris Wood, MBE, who's on a mission to help enable wheelchair users fly with dignity and safety. Now, for many wheelchair users, this is one challenge too far. And John, I bet you've got some stories to share about some of your experiences, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is a campaign I really want to see succeed.
Well, the process of transfer is often undignified, okay? Wheelchairs can also end up at different destinations, can you believe it? And wheelchairs are often damaged in transit, as I know and have directly experienced. And all I'll say tonight is that it was an extraordinarily distressing experience some years ago now, admittedly, but more on that with Chris when we chatter. But here's the good news. Air travel is starting to put its house in order. And Chris's vision in seeing people live their lives in a power chair, stay in their chair whilst flying, is something that we're going to learn a little bit more about in 3 weeks' time. So Wednesday, the 20th of August, 7:30 p.m. we go live. There's the diary date. And once again, on behalf of the Muscle Health Foundation, muscle-tastic thanks to tonight's special guest, Jon Rey-Hastie, and to our volunteer StreamYard studio team, to Shari, to Jason, and of course, to our studio lead, to Grace, for making it all happen behind the scenes. You guys are amazing. For now, have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye for now.